Welcome to this week's highlight episode. Man, have we got a good one in store for you. We break down our hypothetical Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks, as well as continue on the hot stove conversation from last week, picking up with Corey Kluber trade and the Madison Bumgardener deal. So stay tuned and let's fucking go. Yeah, it's we had, if you were watching the Saints game, that was on Monday night, wasn't it?
Yep.
And Mr. Brees has quite the track record of doing special things on Monday Night Football. But he did become the all-time passing touchdowns leader this Monday. So partner that with, I think it was last season or season before, he passed the all-time passing yards record. And he still holds the career passing percentage. So with all that being said, you know, I'm sure every other show has done this, but I wanted to give you our Turbo and 2K's spin on it. Just with all these, you know, great accomplishments, where in our eyes do we see Drew Brees sitting? Is he on the quarterback Mount Rushmore? Is he just shy of that? Where do we put him? And 2K's, what I'm going to ask is, give me your top five quarterbacks. And start with 5 and tell me why he's there, and then work your way up to number 1.
Man, so my top 3 are actually pretty easy. My 4, 5, 6, somebody's going to get left off this that, you know, in a lot of people's opinion, probably should be on there. But at number 5...
No, I think if it was left up to the 2K crew, Michael Jordan would be
yeah, no doubt,
one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all
time.
He
can probably out quarterback all these guys. I mean, yeah, for sure.
He's the GOAT. What do you
According
expect?
to what, you know, all of our listeners. And he also can play better defense than all these guys too. And yeah, I mean, we heard it all. But number 5 on my all-time quarterback list, I have Brett Favre.
Okay, the gunslinger.
And that's, I mean, for me, that was what I loved about him, was he wasn't scared of shit.
No, he had zero fucks.
And you know, as far as all these guys on the list, probably just straight arm strength. He was, you know, number one on the list here. Number 4, that's where I have Brees now,
okay. Right
now. Now that, to me, he can, depending on what happens, you know, he still has the rest of this year. They have a legitimate shot at winning a Super Bowl right now. I don't think he's going to be done after this year. I think a lot of people are saying that, you know, he's going to retire, and I don't think so. I guess maybe if they won the Super Bowl, maybe there would be a shot that he would go out on top. If it wasn't for, you know, my 3 next guys, you know, he could definitely be. It'd be pretty easy to put him higher up on this list, but his career's not over yet. You know, right. Like I said, there's a good chance he could jump up to 3 on my list, possibly 2. Mm-hmm. But so I have him at 4. 3, I have Joe Montana. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of Montana, so I go by just strictly looking at numbers. He also had a guy by the name of Jerry Rice. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him.
That does help, and that was, you know, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice is what first enamored me when it came to football.
Number 2 on my list, Peyton Manning. You know, kind of a lot of the things that you just mentioned. Peyton Manning's the quarterback that I watched growing up, and the game manager that he is, and watching him, you know, at the line, and, you know, checking out of plays and checking into plays and
Omahaing.
Omaha, you know, and it's just, but like it's almost like every single time they broke the huddle, he knew exactly what defense they were going to, you know, the opposing team was going to be in. He was the smartest guy on the field.
Yeah, and that, hands down, I'm pretty sure the only easier job of being Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator would be his fucking backup. Mm-hmm. Those 2 would be the easiest jobs in the whole fucking NFL. When it comes to great players, I mean, you have to be a fan.
Yeah.
Not just a Colts fan or a Bears fan. You have to be a football fan. And just appreciate greatness when it's there, because those are the players that you'll be telling your kids about. Oh yeah, I watched Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, "Oh no, you're that old, Dad." Like, fuck you, but yeah, I am. But that's just one of the cool things about being a fan. And if being fanatic for one team is fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when you embrace the whole sport, I think you get more out of it.
So the number one on my list, I think everybody already knows it. I mean, if he's not number one on everybody's list, I don't. Have you ever watched football?
Do you even football?
Tom Brady. The rings speak for themselves. He also has the numbers. You know, it might not be the eye-popping numbers like a Drew Brees or even like Peyton Manning, but
well, him and Brees, as far as the career passing touchdowns, are very close.
Yeah.
A lot of folks say they're going to be going back and forth until one of them hangs it up.
Yep.
Or if they both decide to hang it up at the same time.
I guess the thing I love the most about Brady is any time on the clock is too much time. Mm-hmm. You score, you kick a field goal to go ahead, and there's any time on the clock, you're probably going to lose.
You're always expecting Brady to at least take it down the field and tie it.
Yep.
Or, hit that receiver in the back of the end zone for the go-ahead.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like with him, just for his entire career, the biggest moments are where he plays his best football. A lot of guys seem to disappear, in those big moments to where he plays his best football at that time. And whether you like him or not, I know there's a lot of people that hate the Patriots. Hell, I hate the Patriots. But it's hard. You can't be a football fan and not respect what we've been watching for the last 20 years with him. And I know a lot of people also want to say, well, he wouldn't be able to do it without Belichick. Yeah, you're probably right. Belichick wouldn't be able to do what he was doing without Brady.
Yeah, but I think Brady's talent, if you put him on any other team, probably just as good.
You look at that's the one thing with all these quarterbacks is they all had great coaches.
All right, so you ready for my top 5?
Yep.
I'm going to start off with Mr. Brees at 5. We already touched base on a lot of it. He's a more efficient Brett Favre. And now what's kind of unique about this list is, well, just take the folks off your list. Most of them are contemporaries. Most of them played in this pass interference era, and more, it wasn't like a Johnny Unitas or something where they ran the ball more than they threw the ball. But my number 5, Drew Brees, and you're right in that he's not done. He could climb up this list, but yeah, he's my number 5. My number 4 is one that you didn't have on your list, but in Mr. John Elway. A lot of folks say that he only won he only won the 2 Super Bowls, but he didn't really win anything until he got a running game. But if you look at how dominant he was, and just because he was kind of he's a freak of nature when he came out of college. Big, huge arm, mobile, which he didn't get a lot of credit for, but early in his career he had to because the Broncos sucked. And he was a couple passes away and a couple minutes away from possibly playing in 2 more Super Bowls. He was the one that kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of these dudes. He set the precipice. He set the, he drew the line in the sand, and you're like, if you want to be an NFL quarterback, this is what you have to do. So that was number 4. Number 3, I got to go Peyton Manning, number 3. Just for all the same reasons that we talked about on your list. He just has to be there. He has to.
Really special to win multiple Super Bowls for the same team, but I think it's something to be said to do it at 2 different teams also, because
Peyton was the first one to do that.
Yes, right? Yeah. He spent basically his whole career with the Colts, but then was able to go over to the Broncos and was able to. Now, was he still the same quarterback that he was with the Colts at the time? No, but he had the best defense in the NFL that season when they did win that with Denver, but to be able to jump into with a whole new team, a whole new offense, all new coaching staff, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, and do it in what he spent 5 years in Denver. That's not a long time. And especially like we were talking about with Peyton's way of doing things, that's a whole different system that they were trying to run. I mean, you remember when they were doing the pistol, and he didn't like that, and he wanted to go under center more or be in the shotgun more or whatever the fuck it was. They were kind of at arms about this is not the way Peyton wants to do things. And then once they got everything on track, then yes, they partnered with that defense, hands down. Number 2, Joe Montana. And like we talked about, it's probably a little easier being a Mount Rushmore person with Jerry Rice, especially young Jerry Rice and Jerry Rice in his prime, even though it seemed like his prime lasted 20 years. But he was surrounded by a Hall of Fame team. He really was. And it pains me to say that, yes, number 1, TB12. Pains me to say it, but I got to respect him.
That's the thing. Whether you like him or not, you got to respect what he does. I mean,
so one thing that did shock me out of both of our lists is one name that's missing, and that's Mr. Marino. Now, him not winning a Super Bowl does not have any effect on his rating for me. He would be 6th, and again, like John Elway, and they were drafted in the same draft, if I'm not mistaken, but he was another one of those guys that if you want to play quarterback in this league, this is how to do it. Then later on in his career, this is how you do it with 2 shot knees. Probably the prettiest passer out of anyone that we've talked about. Probably the most pure passer. Did it with 0 running game his entire career. And his top 2 receivers, one of them was named Mark Duper, and I can't remember the other one right offhand. So he did it with a very limited cast, is what I'm trying to say, and that's doing it that way. You can't take away, putting him up where he needs to be because without rings. Because if you look at, I would be shocked if someone were to tell me that anyone on that defense. Well, first of all, I know he didn't have a running back that made any Pro Bowls, let alone a Hall of Famer. His offensive line was shoddy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got the shit beat out of him. His wide receivers were marginal. But I'd be shocked if there was one Hall of Famer out of Marino's entire career that played defense. Just my 2 cents. So in that regard, I don't care if because all the records that Brees is breaking, Marino had at one point. And then Brett Favre broke them, Peyton Manning broke them, and now Brees is breaking them. So, yeah, to me, he's the best passer, but does that make him the best quarterback? No. Let's talk a little hot stove real quick here, 2Ks. Because we did our initial hot stove episode last week. So we had Bumgardener signing with Arizona, which is kind of an odd place. I wouldn't think that they would want to bring on another contract after just getting rid of the Greinke contract. And if you're going to get rid of Greinke, I guess in my opinion, I would much rather have Greinke than Mad Bum. Granted, you're paying a lot more money for Greinke, but Greinke's younger. Madison Bumgarner is a great pitcher, but I don't want to do the Kurt Schilling analogy because Schilling had some great years outside of postseason play, and so's Bumgarner. But it seems like most of Bumgarner's hype is either because he's hitting bombs, which most pitchers don't do, or it's the postseason runs that the Giants went on and his hit, coming out of the bullpen and doing all the great things that he did. But I was a little shocked at the landing spot, Arizona.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me also. It just I was talking to my dad about it last week, and I'm like, why? But it was kind of the same thing when they signed Greinke. It was why? I mean, that's a team that's seems like they're constantly giving up. At the trade deadline, they're trading guys off and restarting and trading guys off and restarting, and then you're gonna throw out all that money for Bumgarner? I mean, I don't get it. Now, Bumgarner 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, but now I question how many more good years he has left, and he's been kind of going downhill as we go. Is he still a top of the rotation pitcher for them? Yeah. A lot of these contenders, I think he's maybe the third, fourth guy in a rotation.
I mean, and we kind of have to take into account too. The last couple seasons have been injury plagued.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is something to do with age,
Yeah.
wear and tear. However, I think one of the injuries, he was jumping a dirt bike or some stupid shit.
Well, the thing that
And-
pisses me off about him, he's always the guy that is so worried about somebody showing him up. Oh, they did sign Terrain.
That's what I thought, to a 1-year deal.
Yep. Which that could be potentially.
Julio Teheran, yeah. He was, he's been with the Braves forever,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been the Braves ace forever, and now you have all these young studs coming up that there just isn't room for him anymore. So, yeah, that could be a sneaky good signing.
Yep.
Even though it's not the $300 million signing, that could be a sneaky good signing if Mr. Terrain can stay.
Another one too, that if he can stay healthy.
Yep.
That's been the big thing with him.
And another one that we basically foreshadowed this was the Corey Kluber trade. No, that was to Texas, correct?
Yep.
The Rangers.
Yep.
Another odd team.
Another one that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
No, and I know that. Is it this season that their new stadium's open, or is it next season in Texas? Might be next season.
Next season, yeah.
So for all you Ranger fans, I'm sure you'll be stoked as shit to be watching games in an air-conditioned joint and not having to burn in the 110 Texas sun. But yeah, another, but maybe yet again, this is getting back to what we were talking about last week with the Indians not wanting to pay people. Granted, Kluber went through a rather injury-plagued year.
Well, I think for Cleveland, I think this kind of sets I think that they're going to sign Lindor now.
All right, YouTube fam, if you found that really, really awesome, which I'm sure you did, you might want to check out the actual episode up here, as well as don't forget to subscribe. And as always, hit the like button, hit the bell, and we'll be back at you next week.